Hello, nerds for Yang.
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds!
I'm saying, now with this campaign, bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang.
Hello, nerds. Nerds for Yang. Woo! Who would have thought? This is our first post-South Carolina results live stream. And I'm supposed to have Mike Knowles, who is running for Senate from the great state of Montana, with me tonight or today, depending on where you're joining us from. But Mike is not here yet, so we're going to go without him. And then if he joins, consider Mike kind of like a bonus guest. But, you know, as is our practice, I'm thinking we can go over some numbers. We can go over state of the race. If there's any viewer questions, we can take those. Plenty of material for the next hour or so. So buckle up. And before we get into it, where's everybody joining us from today? I'm coming to you guys from Zurich, Switzerland. I actually submitted my not my absentee ballot, my Democrats Abroad primary ballot. I sent that in a few days ago. It was very cool, filling out that checkbox for Andrew Yang. So, you know, that Democrats Abroad thing, for any of you guys who are expats, there, you know what? Like, if enough of the Yang Gang votes, maybe we can have a nice little surprise there in the Democrats Abroad primary. So let me just give you guys a quick link. If you are an American citizen and are living overseas at the moment, you can participate in the overseas primary, and it's very easy. You can do it all online. Let me just put the link there for you guys. And oh, goodness, there's a bunch of drama going on at my house right now. The kids are screaming. So that's that is the link. Hold on, let me just mute and tell them to try and keep it down. Oh shit. I just have to tell Brandon to like get it together, dude. He's like having a meltdown over whether or not Daisy is allowed to sleep in his room or his brother's room. Ah, the life of a 10-year-old. Anyway, okay, so let's see where people are joining us from. So yeah, by the way, if you guys are overseas and you're an American citizen and you're a registered Democrat, go to that site and fill out your overseas primary. And who knows, maybe we could actually win one. That would be so awesome. All right, so we got people joining us from, oh, we can do better. His whole family is in Montana. Yeah, so Mike Knowles is running for the Senate seat in Montana. So it's a statewide office. In terms of where he's from, I'm not sure what part of Montana he's from. But maybe if we see him on this stream, he'll tell us, or, you know, I could just, you know what the hell? Let's just go to his site right now. Mike, you owe me one, man. Mike Knowles. Hold on, guys. Senate. No, not that Mike Knowles. Mike Knowles, KNO. Okay, here we go. Mike Knowles is from MikeKnowles2020.com. I might as well just share my screen with you guys so we can look at it together. Share screen, Chrome tab. That's Mike. And let's go to his about page. He is, well, he was born in Iowa. But then now he lives in Montana. And he's a pretty interesting guy. He's like a Eagle Scout, but also I think he's like some kind of mathematician. So anyway, we'll hopefully get Mike on the show during this stream, or if not, another time. Oh, we can do better. You're in Seattle. Dude, check it. Hold on. Show you a little. Oh, yeah, baby. 12th man. I'm still licking my wounds. I can't believe the season's over for us. We got Ohio. Oh, Hitachi, if you're in Germany and the U.S. citizen registered Democrat, don't forget to vote in the primary. Nina's in California. Big Super Tuesday pot of delegates, which is seeming to be very strong for Bernie, but we'll look at those numbers together. Got Ohio. Play this as we should change the name of the channel. You know, maybe. It just feels like I'm still in the mourning period. I actually had talked about it on Twitter, like right after Yang suspended, and a lot of people were like, no, you can't change it. But I think people just need time, and maybe we'll go to become like Nerds for Humanity or something. Because if I stay with Nerds for Yang, it may affect our ability to get this content consumed by people who aren't in the Yang gang. And since I plan on covering the race till the very end, it's like, who would watch the Nerds for Booker channel? It'd be just might be kind of weird. I don't know. At any rate, let's see. Oh, across Canada, you're not feeling well. Well, I'm sorry, man. I hope you feel better. Hopefully, there's a lot of stuff going around with the flu and colds and obviously corona. But hopefully you do not have corona. Oh, you're saying you're worried you have corona. Well, I have good news for you. The mortality rate for corona is, I think, around 2%. So even if you do have it, you only have a 49 in 50 chance of making it, and most people do. Now, across Canada, if you are over 50, then the mortality rate is a little higher, and if you're male, then the mortality rate is a little higher. But still, even for the most risky, it's most people survive. Okay, so now let's get into the state of the race. How about we look at, I think we should, of course, talk about South Carolina, right? So let's pull up those South Carolina results and see what they tell us. I have to admit, I was quite surprised at this. I thought South Carolina was going to be, the end of the end for Biden. And as you can see here, freaking cleaned up. A lot of people say that the Clyburn endorsement came a long way. Obviously, it is a very heavy, I think, majority African-American voting primary. And that is not Sanders' strength, although I think he did better with African Americans than people expected in Nevada. So I think people were thinking maybe Sanders will do even better than what he did in South Carolina. And I guess Buttigieg kind of proved that he is struggling with African Americans. And Warren, wow, only 7%, and then Klobuchar 3%. So it seems to me like, and we know Steyer has suspended his campaign. So you wonder, like, how much longer is Buttigieg going to be hanging around? I know he says he's still staying through Super Tuesday, so that'll be interesting. I guess this is his. He's running for cabinet member. It would appear, and then the big question mark is Bloomberg. But hey, hats off to Biden for delivering on a very big night for himself. in South Carolina. The one thing I would say is, should South Carolina, like, will it really be a bellwether for Super Tuesday? Because if you look at the states that are coming up in Super Tuesday, I think I have a handy list here. Hold on. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Here we go. Hold on. Share screen. Let's look at Super Tuesday. So, what are the big prizes in Super Tuesday? For sure, California with 400. And then you've got, what is this right column? Oh, this is the results from 2016. Why do they have that there? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We just care about the delegates. So you've got California, 415. Who are another big dogs? Tejas, 228. Michigan, over 100. Florida, 219. And I guess my point is, I'm not sure that we should extrapolate the 50% win that that Biden had in South Carolina as an indication of what we would expect to see in California, Texas, and Florida, right? I think South Carolina is probably more closer to, who knows, some of these southern states, like maybe Mississippi. But that's not where the delegates are. So I am not eager to celebrate the great moderate recovery that Biden had in South Carolina as the beginning of the new moderate wave in Super Tuesday. In fact, I would imagine I still think it's going to be a big night for Sanders, but let's see what the polls say, shall we? All right, let's go to the polls. Share screen. Here we go. All right, let's go to the polls. So here, if you look at national polls, excuse me. If you look at national polls, you have Sanders 50% higher than Biden. And I was just on the Moving Forward podcast, and they were arguing, Corey and Rio were arguing that, well, Bloomberg is sucking up all of the Biden support. But if you add Biden and Bloomberg nationally, you'll end up at around 35. But if half of Warren goes to Sanders, he'd be at around 35. So, not obvious to me that there's this massive moderate majority in the Democratic Party at the moment. It seems like the party is definitely moving more to Sanders than to Biden, in my opinion. And then if you look at where are the big delegate prizes, like California. California has 400 delegates. California has twice as many delegates as Florida, right? California, with its 400 delegates, has 4 times the delegates of North Carolina, has pretty much double Texas. So obviously California is a big deal. And who's leading in California? Sanders and Warren. Biden and Bloomberg, even if you added the two together, would just be 23%. Even if Biden and Bloomberg combined, they would still not beat Sanders. Tejas, 200 plus delegates. That's closer. That's where you have Sanders 30, Biden 20, and Bloomberg tied with Biden, 18 versus 20.8. So you could argue Texas would be more of a toss-up for the moderates if they could converge, but they're not. I don't see Bloomberg dropping out, and I don't see Biden for darn sure not dropping out during Super Tuesday, before Super Tuesday. North Carolina, a little stronger for Biden. But then Virginia, Sanders number one. Massachusetts, decent sized state, Sanders number one. So it appears that we are moving towards a outcome where Sanders and Biden maybe are going to be duking it out, but you never know with Bloomberg. Who knows? I think the rough thing with Bloomberg is he's run a lot of ads. He's got a great resume, in my opinion, but he's not a great candidate. Like, he just doesn't. When you see him speak, you don't feel like more inclined to support him. Whereas Bernie, I would say when I see him speak, even though he's way sort of left of where I am politically, I'm like, you know what? This guy seems like an honest guy. He's probably going to try to do what he says he wants to do. There's no like secret motives. I don't think he's, sort of has any integrity issues, yada, yada. So anyway, that is a high level of the polls. But let me also kind of go into a deeper dive into one of the polls, specifically the YouGov polls that were just finished up on Feb 25th, so just about a week ago from when we're streaming right now. And it's always kind of fun to do a deep dive into these polls to kind of get a sense of where everybody's heads are at. And by the way, if you're watching this, and you're enjoying the conversation so far, please give us a like. It does help us get more discovered by other people. So let's go into the deep dive of the polls here. So this is the Economist YouGov poll. This is one of my favorite. The first is like, is Russia a friend or ally of the United States? And 20% of Republicans believe that Russia is a friend or ally. 1 out of 5 Republicans. Basically, this column here, this is friend or allies, 20%, 16 and 4%. So that, I just find that pretty amazing, given that this is a country that, at least according to U.S. intelligence, has, number one, tried to manipulate the election last time with hacking into the Democratic nominees' email servers and releasing them at very opportune times. And now they're trying again. That doesn't sound like a friend or ally thing to me, but that's what Republicans think, at least 1 out of 5. Let's go into, coronavirus. What do people think about the coronavirus? Let's see. They're taking, so most people believe that we are behaving appropriately. Some think we should be taking it more seriously. And then when you break it by party ID, it looks like very similar, although half of Republicans think that everything is A-OK, 48%. And that's probably the biggest difference. Only 36% of Democrats think that we're handling it appropriately. So I don't know if I would imagine if you're a Republican today, you're generally concerned about anything that's critical of the president. And so I think there's probably a little bit of bias there, but that's kind of interesting to see. And then let's see what other kind of cool numbers we can find. You know what's crazy? That Taliban peace deal, I think that was signed already, and it has just been not talked about in the news much. But most people, do they support? Oh, interesting. Most people do not support a peace deal with the Taliban, in which the Taliban take part in the government of Afghanistan after the withdrawal of U.S. troops. And in terms of party, kind of evenly split, personally, I'm ready for our troops to come home. And if that's what we need to get it done, then fine. I mean, obviously, we should not tolerate any kind of harboring of active efforts against us, but we don't want to occupy all these countries, in my opinion. All right, now let's go to Russia interfered in 2016. Do you believe that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election? Wow, I'm quite surprised by this one. 27% of people don't think that Russia interfered in our 2016 election. That's crazy. What the? Hold on. Why was that? I was about to share my Gmail. That was crazy. Hold on a second. Let me go back to my data. Hold on. There we go. All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. Chrome, boom. Okay, where was it? Russia interfered in 2016. So 27% of people don't think that Russia interfered in 2016. And if you go by party ID, 55% of Republicans do not think Russia interfered in 2016 presidential election. That is pretty interesting. I'm not sure. I guess they don't believe the CIA and FBI and the Mueller report. There you go. Let's see. Any other interesting stuff before we get into favorability? All right. Let's go into favorability of politicians. Let's look at where is Biden strong in terms of his favorability. He is strongest with females older than 65 who are Black. Black females over 65 are very strong Biden. And where is he most unfavorable? It would be also females who are, interestingly, also over 65, but white. Wow, that's weird. And then everyone else is just kind of like somewhat. And then if you look at for Republicans, 10% are somewhat or very favorable, and 70% of Democrats are favorable. And a quarter of independents are favorable. Okay, so that's Biden. So takeaway for Biden is older Black women love him, older white women hate him. Most Democrats like him, and only about 10% of Republicans and a quarter of independents like him. What about favorability of Bernie? There we are. And let me just check back in with the stream. You guys can hear me okay, right? All right, here we go. Going back. Favorability of Bernie. Who loves Bernie? Very favorable. Male and female is kind of evenly split. Definitely 18 to 29 really like him. Ironically, even though he's old himself, older, people 65 and older, they're not very favorable. Only 15% are favorable to him. And in terms of white, black, Hispanic, strong with black and Hispanics, less strong with white, kind of like Biden, frankly. And then how does Bernie do with Republicans? Bernie has the same favorability for Republicans as Biden does. So anybody that tells you that Biden's going to pull Republicans over, not true. In fact, Bernie actually has stronger independents. He has 36% favorable, whereas Biden only had 25. And Bernie has stronger favorability with the Democrats. So there you go. I would say in the whole Biden versus Bernie favorability battle, Bernie wins because he has more independents, the same amount of Republicans, and a little bit more Democrats. And now let's see Bloomy. Bloomy, where's his favorable? Male, female kind of split, but pretty low. And there's the guy that does well with the older people. He's got more favorable from the olders. He also does better with black and Hispanics than whites. Man, like the white voters are not loving these Democrats. And then where's his unfavorable for Bloomberg? Is most unfavorable would be males. Ooh, his unfavorables are kind of consistent across the board for age. Whites, white male. If you're white male, you're more likely to be if you want to find someone who doesn't like Bloomberg, a white male would be better choice. Now, interestingly enough, when you break it down by party, even though Bloomberg used to be a Republican, he only has 9% favorability with Republicans, and he only has 19% favorability with independents. So Bernie has stronger favorability with independents. Even Biden does better with independents than Bloomberg. And then Bloomberg doesn't really show up that strong with Democrats either. Yeah, I'm not vibing. So I think in the sort of favorability battle, not looking good for old Bloomberg. Oh, you know what? Since we're the Nerds for Yang channel. Oh, did they even ask about Yang anymore? I don't know. They may not have. They may have stopped asking about Yang favorability. Let me quickly see. No, those mofos. Nah, he ain't on there anymore. Too bad. That's what happens when you suspend your campaign. They just stop asking about you. So TLDR for the favorability deep dive is Bernie, then Biden, and Bloomberg having tough go, which is sad because I love Bloomberg's resume. Like, I'm super impressed with his education and being a mayor of such a complicated city. I get people don't like the stop and frisk thing, and I agree that it was way out of hand and should never have happened. On the other hand, I would not be surprised if some people still on the overall sort of reduction in crime still think that Bloomberg did an okay job in the city. I mean, he was reelected by the people who live there. But yeah, I mean, as much as I like it, and then of course CEO of Bloomberg, the company, I mean, that guy's legit. He's a real businessman. But if you've got favorability numbers like that, doesn't matter how much money you have or how great your resume is. Like, it's not going to happen. Okay, so now should we look at search trends? Let's look at search trends. Here we go. Let's go here. Wow, windy today. You guys hear that wind? What the heck? It's nuts. Close this window. Okay. Let's look at search trends. Who are people looking for information on? Let's see here. Look at this. National search trends over the last 7 days. Remember when we used to put so many names here? Oh, what the hell? Just for old time's sake. Add him in there too. Okay. Most people are searching for Bernie last 7 days, then Biden. So this is for United States. Now, if you look at South Carolina, this is kind of cool. Now that we know the outcome, we'll see if the search. Oh, no. There were more people searching for Bernie than Biden over the last 7 days. However, if you do custom time range from, let's say, today is the 1st. So we just do like 1st of March today. So if we do Friday and Saturday, 28th and 29th of Feb, shoot, let me just make sure. What was South Carolina? So South Carolina primary was Feb 29th. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the 28th. Let's look at the 27th and the 28th. And then we'll see if we see the Biden surge. No, we don't. So that, I think, represents that probably aligns with, oh, this is YouTube. Let's go web. Yeah, no, people were searching for Bernie more than Biden. I suspect old African-American voters were not on Google searching. So this is probably the rub with using Google Trends, is that it is not capturing the interest of some of the demographic that doesn't use Google a lot. But let's look at national, and then we'll look at the last 7 days. And basically what we should do is just caveat to ourselves that whatever you see here is kind of like when we used to look at the Yang numbers. You know, it kind of represents the internet active people. And here you've got Bernie super strong, and you've got Biden pretty much comparable to Bloomberg. Buttigieg, they're searching about a pill. Not sure what that's about. Bernie, they're searching about Public Enemy. That's interesting. Bloomy, they're searching about how he became a millionaire or billionaire, really. Biden, they're searching about 150 million gun deaths. Joe Biden running for Senate. Why would they be searching for that? That's weird. And Yang, they're searching for Andrew Yang, South Carolina, and Clyburn. So I have to say that given the outcome of South Carolina and the fact that we just went back in time and looked at that search data in South Carolina prior to the primary and basically have concluded that, well, the search data is kind of interesting, but it's not as strong at predicting outcomes, probably because of demographic bias. And actually now, this is kind of fun. Let's go back and look at some old South Carolina polls that were right before the primary to see if these polls are even representative. Hold on one second. So let me share the polling for South Carolina. And we're going to go polls. We're going to say Democratic polls. So the poll right before South Carolina on the 29th, on the 28th had, let's just go into it. South Carolina. They had, they did have Biden surging. They did have Biden surging. Yeah. So the polls had Biden at 40 and 44. One of them had him a little bit lower at 34, but all of these three polls had Biden beating Sanders. So as much as I love the availability of the Google data, I think these polls are being better predictors, which is what they're supposed to do. And the Google data is just measuring, who's searching for what. So I guess the good news is if you want to know what's happening in Super Tuesday and you look at those polls, and since we know that the polls did a pretty good job for South Carolina, it looks like it's going to be a strong finish for Bernie in terms of delegates, but then Biden in second, and then probably, let's see, who do we think? Let's go back here. Who do we think is going to be in third? Let's go back up to the national polls, because Super Tuesday is kind of like starting to reflect the whole country. It's so many states. In terms of delegate wins, you would expect to see Sanders getting the most, close second by Biden, maybe Bloomberg third, and then Warren and Buttigieg kind of tied for fourth. And what does that mean? What does it mean when you have basically Sanders, Biden, Bloomberg splitting the Democratic Party? On the one hand, you could say, well, it means that one of the two, Biden or Bloomberg, should get out or move all their delegates under the other guy. I think we would probably say Bloomberg should move his delegates under Biden. But it's not like that becomes an overwhelming majority, because what happens if Warren moves a lot of hers under Sanders? Well, now you basically have a tie. Of course, you have Buttigieg and Klobuchar. You could argue like, well, maybe they all rally behind Biden. Yeah, that would be interesting. I'll tell you what, though, if I were a Biden supporter, I'm not sure how I would feel about that, because I would say like, hey, man, you guys kind of did this to us last time. Whether it's true or not, like, we can debate that, but there's no question that the Bernie supporters are all pissed. So if they had the guy with the most delegates and then everybody else just sort of joined forces, I wonder if some of Bernie supporters would just tell them to pound sand. Basically, I worry, like, look, if just 5% or say 10% of Bernie supporters stay home, like, that could be a Trump victory. Because Bernie supporters are about a third of all Democrats. So that's a pretty big chunk to disenfranchise. On the other hand, if you flip it, and if Bernie's the nominee, do we think all those moderates are going to stay home? I don't think so. I think those moderates will probably say, well, look, I don't like either of them, but I would prefer Bernie over Trump. So anyway, that's that. Now let's look at betting odds, and then we'll take some questions, and maybe I'll do something new. I'll go over like a little bit of a Twitter commentary, because my Twitter feed has been kind of active, so we can talk about some of that stuff, and then we'll wish you guys a happy Sunday. All right, now let's look at betting odds. Election betting odds. Stream, share, Chrome. Okay. All right, so the gamblers still believe Sanders is the most likely person to win the primary. They think that Biden is half as likely. Ooh, they're not vibing Bloomberg. He's even half as likely as Biden, so a quarter of Sanders. And then you've got Clinton, 2% chance. Ooh, Buttigieg looking rough. Same with Warren. Yikes. So basically, the gamblers are thinking it's down to these three. Wow, look at that. These three 70-year-old white dudes. And then for the presidency, the gamblers are thinking that old Trump is going to get reelected, followed by Bernie and then Biden. Interesting. Oh, speaking of which, we should look at so that's what the gamblers think. If we say in the last week, you'll see Biden had a nice big jump, I think, reflecting the South Carolina win. Bloomberg took it in the shorts because with a strong Biden, why do you need a Bloomberg? And Bernie's been pretty steady. We should look at the head-to-head polls. Hold on one second. Head-to-head polls, Trump. Okay, let's share this one. Okay, share Chrome. I think it's this guy. Hopefully okay. So in these crucial states, Trump versus everyone, what happens? So in North Carolina, Trump versus Sanders, it's basically a tie. Sanders 48, Trump 46. That's according to NBC. And another one, they have Trump winning by a few points. So that's a toss-up for North Carolina in terms of Trump Sanders. Trump Biden, also basically a tie, 48-46. Wow, North Carolina is such a battleground. Bloomberg also a tie. In Texas, Trump ahead of Sanders in one poll, tied in another, ahead of Biden in one, tied in another, tied with Bloomberg. Trump is strong in Texas. Wow, I'm surprised Buttigieg is only a few points behind Trump even in Texas. Warren would get her clock cleaned by Trump in Texas. So would Klobuchar. General election across the national, Sanders beats Trump by 7 percentage points. That's a pretty strong gap. Also, that's the Fox News one. In Yahoo News YouGov, Sanders beats Trump. Fox News says Biden beating Trump. Yahoo, Biden beats Trump. Bloomberg beats Trump. Buttigieg, 3 points ahead of Trump. Warren, 3 points ahead of Trump. Klobuchar, 1 point ahead. Very tight. Very tight. I would say if you're optimizing for beating Trump, shoot, there is no clear one. I mean, maybe you could argue it's Sanders. I mean, like, if we look at this Fox News poll, see if I can get some more details for you guys. Ooh, this is going to be hard for you guys to read. Let's see if I can expand it. Okay, so they interviewed 1,000 people, mostly cell phone. And tell me, who are you generally favorable or unfavorable? So you've got Biden has 50 favorable, 46 unfavorable. Trump has 44 favorable, 55 unfavorable. So Bernie and Sanders, Biden and Sanders have similar favorability. Bloomberg has kind of weaker favorability than Trump. Buttigieg has weaker favorability than Trump, and so does Klobuchar. And Warren is kind of equally favorable as Trump. And then if you look at favorability over time, Biden's been pretty steady, kind of around 50, moved up a little lately. And then Bernie, pretty steady. See if there's any more data on this one. Trump has been in the low 40s for favorability forever. Ooh, I guess he went down to 39 in October of 2017. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, he's kind of he's hanging out in this low 40s area. So yeah, I would say in summary, the polls are going to show strong Bernie outcome, strong Biden outcome, tough third for Bloomberg, and then the question will be like Buttigieg and Warren, like when are they going to make a decision on what they're going to do? So let's now do a quick thing where we look at some Twitter commentary, and then I'll take questions and we'll wrap it up. Sound good? All right. I should also, before I forget, thank some of the supporters of the Nerds for Yang channel. We have a bunch of members who are basically supporting the channel's operating costs, like the podcast hosting fee, the streaming software, licensed, music. Sometimes when I do like explainer videos and stuff like that. So I do want to take 1 second quickly, and then we'll go to Twitter and take your questions. But I'm going to pull up my my members. I want to give them some recognition because these guys are still members, even though obviously the campaign has been suspended. So as long as people are supporting the channel, I'm more than happy to continue providing updates on the state of the race. So let's just quickly go over who we want to thank, and then we'll go into Twitter and then questions from you guys. So I'm going to go to here, YouTube. So first, I want to thank Kristen Slevin, who's actually going to be on the show. I think she's going to be coming on in like a month or so. So it'll be kind of fun to hear what she's up to. And then we've got Fat Lamb, JM Sap, VLAM, and Lock Win. Thank you all for being the vice president level, just right under the executive vice president level. And then we've got the hardcore Yang level, which is right under them. And you've got people from Ming, Mike, Chad, Felix, L. Bogart, Gene, Adrian, David, Tracy, DK. And then finally, we have the verified Nerds for Yang. And Sydney, our first member, is still a member. Thank you, Sydney. TY, John, Lisa, Brian, Sugar Sweet. I've seen Sugar Sweet in the comments all the time. Yes, Luang, Don, Brandon, Albert, Arez, Peter, Sophie, Yer, Momon. Hitachi, I think, is here with us right now. James, Gail, Jadwiga, Carlos, Sophia, Mick, Shake and Make. So thank you to you guys for supporting the channel. Makes it very, helps me kind of stay motivated and also continue to put time into these videos. So appreciate everything you guys are doing. And there's been super chat folks in the past as well. So thank you to everybody that's helping out the channel. I'll just keep uploading if you guys still like to talk about the race and the math and the policy and all that kind of stuff. Now let's look at some Twitter stuff, and then we will look at questions from you guys. Okay, so I'm just going to share what has been going on my Twitter feed. So if you haven't already, I'm at Nerds for Yang. And what have I been blabbing on about on Twitter? Let's see here. Oh, this is interesting. I basically spent a lot of time contacting every campaign, and I'll show you exactly what I sent them. This is the letter. See if you guys can read it. Might be too small. But basically, I said, hey, look, we want to know what your position is, your candidate's position is on universal basic income and democracy dollars, and what, if any, role you you have or think there should be for Andrew Yang. And I contacted every single campaign: Bernie, Biden, Bloomberg, Warren, Buttigieg, Gabbard, Steyer, all of them. I contacted them through their official website. I filled out their form for press. I emailed their press contact alias if they gave it. If not, just their general contact alias. I then tweeted at each candidate, and then I tweeted at each campaign manager, and not one of them chose to engage and give us answers. And I'm not saying they had to say, "Oh, I support UBI." They could just say, like, "Look, we're not in favor, and we think the goals are great, but this is why we're not in favor," whatever. But they didn't do that. And so even though the original tweet had 1,400 likes, 630 retweets, everybody saying, "Yeah, I want to hear about it," and so that is what it is. So next time one of your friends who's trying to get you to support their candidate says, "Hey, Yang's suspended his campaign. Why don't you support Bernie, or why don't you support Biden?" I would ask them, like, how come your candidate has refused to talk about universal basic income, democracy dollars, and the role for Andrew Yang in their team? So, like, come on, man. That's how it works. If you want our support, because the other thing is, like, remember after New Hampshire, they were all like, "Oh," on Twitter, Klobuchar, "Oh, I've been to math. I love the Yang Gang, blah, blah, blah." But then when we asked, like, okay, being in the Yang Gang is not just saying math. It's also supporting some flagship proposals from Andrew. And if you don't support those proposals, if you're not in favor of UBI, if you're not in favor of democracy dollars, if you don't see a role for Andrew and your team, then please don't pander to us, man. At a minimum, acknowledge why you think we like those proposals and why you don't think it's a priority for you. I'd be fine if Biden or Bernie say, "Hey, look, I understand that the goal of UBI is to reduce poverty and to level a playing field and to dampen the effects of the fourth industrial revolution. I just have a different way of solving it, and it's through a federal jobs guarantee or through Medicare for all." Okay, I might not agree with you, but at least you freaking took a position and acknowledged the Yang Gang. But what I don't like is these people are trying to, like, draft off of the Yang Gang and say, like, "Oh yeah, I love Andrew Yang, he's so great, blah blah blah," and then, like, that's such freaking talk, man. It's talk. We're not that cheap. We're not a cheap date. The Yang Gang has specific beliefs that are core to the movement. And one of them is that more giant government programs that are bureaucratic is not going to help the people that are needing it the most, and that a VAT-funded universal basic income is probably the most effective policy we could have for working class people who are going to be dislocated from the economy. And freaking democracy dollars would cost America $20 billion. $20 billion a year. I mean, you guys know that we run a $1 trillion deficit thanks to the Trump tax cuts. So we can afford a $20 billion democracy dollar program. Yet no candidate has even talked about it. Freaking frustrates the crap out of me. All right. So now let's talk about, that's not the only thing I've been tweeting about. Let's see, but I do get fired up That's me watching me live. That's weird. Okay, so here we have here was me ranting a little bit about our primary system. We've got Iowa, New Hampshire picking Buttigieg and South Carolina picking Biden. And you got to wonder, you basically taken the two most sort of unrepresentative states for the entire country. You've got two extremely white states and two majority black states. And maybe you could argue Nevada was probably the most representative. But it's a little bit disturbing that we won't actually see most of the country's views until Super Tuesday. And obviously, our candidate wasn't able to make it through there. So I guess my point is, like, why don't we have early primary states that look more like America, like the states that are kind of diverse? I don't know. So I was just pissed that, like, okay, great. It's like whiplash. Like, you give us Buttigieg, now you give us Biden. Okay, thanks a lot, New Hampshire. Thanks a lot, South Carolina. All right, then. Oh, this is me also being a little negative. I have to admit, I was a little fired up this morning, and I was like, "Hey, thanks a lot, South Carolina." But oh, that's interesting. Play this as saying that we should call the channel Nerdology. Maybe. Any rate, what happens if we nominate Biden and the dude can't last 12 rounds against the MAGA machine led by the orange guy? I mean, look, you could say what you want about the orange guy. You could say, like, hey, he doesn't work hard. He does a lot of executive time in the morning. He stays up late tweeting. He doesn't read his briefing books. He plays golf all the time. He's kind of a hypocrite. Everything he said that was bad about Obama, he kind of does twice as much. I get it. But Mofo knows how to pick a fight. He knows how to manipulate mass media. And he loves to win because he clearly has this desire to convince himself that he's a strong, powerful man. And, we won't go into psychoanalyze why he has this need to compensate, but he would probably, I worry that he would kick Biden's ass. And then we'd have another 4 years of freaking Trump. So I'm a little worried. I was actually kind of slightly disappointed that Biden had such a good night in South Carolina, because I'm like, oh no, we're not going to be able to consolidate around a candidate who can beat Trump. I don't know. Maybe you guys, I'd be curious what in the chat, like, do you guys think that Biden can go toe to toe with Trump? I don't know. I'm worried. All right. So that was one bit of a tweet rant. Then what did I say? Oh, by the way, Heidi from Lesbians for Yang is running for Congress, and she's going to be on the show in a few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't subscribed to Nerds for Yang, go ahead and do so you don't miss out on the Heidi interview. Oh, here's me trying to get Steyer on the show since he's suspended. I don't know if he'll do it. Doubt it. Oh, this is me, very proud of my voting in the Democrats Abroad primary. Not to worry, I filled in this box before I submitted it to them, and I confirmed that they got it and we're good. So my vote's going to be counted. But I felt great voting for Yang, even though after he suspended his campaign, because I'm like, look, I'm not excited about any of these freaking candidates. So I'm going to vote for my guy in the primary. And then, when the general comes, obviously I'll go for the opponent to the orange guy. Here is me saying before South Carolina that as much as I have concerns about Biden, if Biden has a big night, which he subsequently did, it's a great thing for Yang because Yang and Biden, I think, have a good relationship. And oh, by the way, Lemon and Lime says for the description, nerd data plus Tom's rants. It's true. It's true. I'm sorry, guys. I get that freaking Trump just gets me going. So anyway, yeah, if you want to optimize for what's best for Yang, you could say being Biden's running mate, and then if Biden actually wins, being either Biden's VP or cabinet member puts us in the pole position for 2024, because I don't think Biden, I think he said he wouldn't run for a second term. So, yeah, but then again, I don't know. I don't know if Biden has it in him to beat the orange guy. All right. So then what did I say? We're not going to go over all my tweets, but I'll just share some. Oh yeah, this is crazy. Did you guys see this? How freaking Trump, this will be the last one. Freaking Trump was saying to his supporters in South Carolina, he says, come on, freaking CNN. First, we need to figure out who would be the weakest candidate. And then if it's legal, of course, if it's legal, if it's permissible by law, then he says we should vote for the weakest candidate. He proceeded to cast a poll while listing off the candidates who they would most like to see him run against. So basically, he's telling his supporters, vote for the weakest candidate in the primary, because, you know, that's apparently the Democratic thing to do, is have your party go into another party's primary and purposely vote for the weakest candidate. I don't have a problem. It's an open primary. It's an open primary. But the point is, like, then vote for the person you think is strongest to lead the country, not the person you think would be weakest. That's just weird. Okay. So that's it for the Twitter stuff. I could go on, but I'm sure you guys don't want to go through all of my tweets. So now let's take some any topics or questions from the audience, and then we'll wrap it up. So while you guys are typing in your questions, I'll show you one more Twitter thing, and then I'll go to your questions. So that was that. This is Bloomberg saying that he had sought out Yang's backing, but I actually think, based on Biden's stronger showing in South Carolina, Bloomberg's whole premise is a weak Biden, and I don't think we're going to see a weak Biden, because we know in South Carolina that he did well. And we also know in the latest polls that Biden is beating Bloomberg. So no need to think about Bloomberg Yang. And then I said, don't blame me. I primaried for Yang, which may have to be a bumper sticker at some point. But okay, now let's go to your guys' questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Let me stop that screen. Here we go. Oh, Rio from Moving Forward Pod is with us. Who did Trump say was weakest, and who he most wanted to run against? Very good question. Trump seemed to want Bernie. But I would say this. I actually think Trump wanting to run against Bernie might be akin to Hillary wanting to run against Trump. I think people underestimate the popular energy behind Bernie, and he's a tough MF. Like, I think he would actually be a very, very strong candidate against Trump. But yeah. If you ask Trump, I think he kind of wants Bernie, and I would like to give it to him. All right. Robert says Joe Biden's a complete loser. He is not going to win, so do not start dreaming. Pavel is saying it was longer than I expected, though. The one state he was focused on the most. I'm looking forward to what Super Tuesday wave brings. I highly doubt it will be in Biden's favor overall. Yeah, I don't think it'll be Biden's favor overall. I suspect that Biden will be the strongest of the non-Bernie people. Let's see. Mike Knowles. The Mike Knowles that was supposed to be on this show is Knoles. He's running in Montana. Let's see. Someone's asking, was I in contact with the Google employee who had a coronavirus? I don't know, but I was in that building. But you know, like I said before, for the corona thing, it's bad and you don't want it, but you know, it's not like a 50% mortality rate. And so we should just, so everybody out there, I just listened to a long podcast on NPR about this. The main thing is wash your hands. You know, problem is like it's transferred human to human through like saliva or like coughing or sneezing and liquid coming out. And the problem is they sneeze and then you walk by, breathe it in, or someone sneezes and then it sprays on like the door handle or elevator button. And then you touch it and then you touch your eye, your nose, your mouth. I mean, I was actually just at Burger King today and I was like picking out my fries and enjoying my fries because I find the Burger King fries to have this nice crispy sort of outside crispy and inside a little chewy kind of combo that I find superior to sometimes the McDonald's fries that are a little like limp. But point is, when you're eating those fries, man, like you open the door to Burger King, you touched the tray, you touched the table, and then you go grab the thing. So I think be careful about the hand washing. Be really big on that. I thought you say rest in peace, Tom. Yeah, I hope I make it. I don't know if it's the person that got infected at work or not. Here's an interesting question. Do the results of the UK general cause you to worry that Trump will win by a landslide? You know, I think in a world where people are afraid because of economic prospects aren't good, afraid because of corona, afraid because of perceived like caravans of illegal immigrants. These are the kinds of like Trump is a candidate of fear. The way that maybe you could say whether you liked him or not, I loved him. Obama was a candidate of hope. I feel like Trump is a candidate of fear. And maybe Yang was a candidate of solutions. But if you want to get people to do something, sometimes fear is more effective than solutions and math and logic. And then Bernie, luckily, that's why I think Bernie would be strong, because he is also a little bit the candidate of fear and anger. He gets people fired up. But I find even if you find Bernie to be too liberal, I think the Senate and Congress would kind of temper him. And I don't worry that Bernie would like start some crazy wars or like, you know, have his son-in-law, who was a friend of, you know, Bibi's, like, you know, arbitrate or mediate between the Palestinians and the Israelis. I don't think we would have concerns about Bernie like firing his cabinet members every other day and like doing these like purges and looking for like anyone who's not loyal to them and firing like intelligence people. Like I don't think Bernie would do that stuff. And even though Bernie is a little too liberal for me, you know, that's still better than old orange dude. Okay, let's see other questions. Waffle fries are the best. I like them. I don't know if they're the best. Oh, why aren't young voters coming out and voting in large numbers? Yeah, why the hell aren't they? Now I don't want to sound like one of those like older folk. I am older. That's like, oh, the new generation, they don't work hard. But they did not come out in record numbers in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina. So if you know some young people and who are pissed about Trump, you should ask them like, hey, did you participate in the primary? And if you didn't, I don't want to say it, but I would say to that young person, like, please don't complain to me on Twitter or on TikTok and you don't freaking vote. You could just shut the F up, because if you're not voting and you're not participating, don't just whine. All right, about to go on my my angry old nerd rant. All right, let's see. The fast food. I like that name. I don't eat at fast food all the time, but it is a little bit of a weakness when on the weekends I take the kids, and it's for the kids. They really enjoy it. So of course I partake. Let's see. Any other questions or comments? Brendan is not a big believer in the young voters. He's like, why don't they come out and vote? Because they don't. That's just generally what they do. How long do you think Tulsi will stay in the race? That's an interesting one. If you run the numbers, you could argue she should have suspended a while ago. So she's clearly not running because she thinks she has a shot at becoming president. I think she's running because she feels like she has a message that she wants to convey. And I respect that. I'd love to get Tulsi on Nerds for Yang one of these days. I invited her, but no such luck yet. But I'll keep trying. Would you consider voting for Trump at least until the wall is complete? No, I would not. I would not consider voting for Trump even before he starts on the wall. Look, I am all for legal immigration, and I am in favor of having control over our own borders and having a say in who comes into the country. And I believe the way to do that is through comprehensive immigration reform, which could include more border security. But I feel like Trump sold a false bill of goods with that wall. I think the subtext was, well, there's all these like, whatever, what is it? These gangs and rapists and murderers coming, and they're taking all the jobs. And, I'm sure there are some criminals that come over the border. I think the statistics are that illegal immigrants commit fewer crimes than citizens, let's say. But I'm sure there are some that commit crimes, and they're terrible, I'm sure, and they're horrible. But I don't know if building a wall solves that problem. I think the way to solve it is those countries to the south of us need to get their act together, and we as a country can help with some foreign aid, the way we did for Europe after World War II. We do need to secure our borders, and we also do need to make sure that we have some way to normalize with the reality, which is, here's the thing I feel about illegal immigration. If you want only legal immigration and you want only documented workers, then we all need to be willing to pay a lot more for more of our stuff. Because there's no way, like I live in Switzerland, there's like almost no illegal immigration here, and the labor costs are really high. And when you go to a restaurant in the US, and you think about who's bringing the food, who's cooking, who's busing, who's driving all that stuff to the kitchen, who's picking all the agriculture, who's processing all the meat, that is subsidized by illegal labor. And so, at any rate, a long answer, but I would say if you care about illegal immigration, then you have to crack down on the illegal employers. And that's something that I don't see Trump doing a lot of for some reason. He prefers to build the wall. Let's see. Any other questions? Did you ever get any responses on the Yang issues? No, Brendan. Sadly, I did not. Not a single one. The only one I got was from Tulsi's campaign. I had someone from her team at least reply and ask for some follow-up information and say that, hey, that person was saying that they really liked what we were doing. But at the end of the day, like, come on, man, give an answer. Just answer. It's 3 questions. What do you think of UBI? What do you think of Democracy Dollars? What do you think of Andrew Yang? We didn't get answers from any of them. Now, you could say, well, they're not going to give answers to you, Tom. You're just nerds for Yang. Fine. I haven't heard them say it anywhere to anyone. And if the Yang Gang, if they want Yang Gang support, then they should just answer those 3 questions. How do I think he's handling the virus outbreak? I think he is conflating this virus thing with his own potency as a president, and therefore he's very tempted to play it down. But I could see him flipping and suddenly going from, oh, it's not a big deal, don't worry, it's only a few people, like what he did with the troops that had the brain injuries in Iraq when Syria sent the rockets over, and he said, oh, it's just a headache, it's no big deal. So he's done that with the coronavirus, but I could see him flipping. If the coronavirus spreads and more people get it, and people get really worried, I could see Trump saying wow, we need to crack down on these Asians that are bringing all these diseases in here. And we need to crack down on these Europeans that are traveling in here. And, I could see him, it's almost like another build the wall moment. So, it could get ugly. I would put nothing past this president. But to answer your question, I think appointing Pence as the czar for Corona, strange. I don't think Pence's background is really super scientific. Mike Pence, what did he study anyway? Let's see. He studied law, so he's a lawyer. And he went to Hanover College. Where is that? Is that in Indiana, maybe? Early life. I'm on Wikipedia. He has a bachelor's degree in history from Hanover College and a law degree from the Robert McKinney School of Law at IUPUI in Indianapolis. So yeah, I don't know. I know he was kind of against clean needles or something at some point when he was governor of Indiana. So appointing Pence doesn't seem like the biggest confidence booster, but I think I also heard that people in the CDC are not allowed to talk to the press unless they run it by the White House. I don't know. So I think he's not handling it well, but I'm more worried about him wanting to handle it more and turn it to his advantage and kind of make it a kind of us versus them thing. Obviously, as an Asian American, you wonder about World War II internment camps and things like that. I mean, it would be crazy for us to do anything like that, but who knows? Trump is Trump. Why does Trump only worry about our southern border? I don't know. He's very worried about it. I think he's worried about the people that are coming from the South. And if there were a bunch of dudes from Montreal illegally crossing, I wonder how strongly he would feel about the rule of law and illegal immigration and stuff like that. Let's see. Any other questions? You're not in the US. Why do you care about politics? Just go do the sword voting ritual in Switzerland. Well, I'm an American citizen. And so I'm here for work, but I am actually coming back to the States in this summer. And I care deeply about our country. And I also know that what America does affects the rest of the world. So as a human, I care deeply about who's in the White House. But as an American citizen and as someone who has the great privilege to pay U.S. taxes while living overseas for the last few years, I want my government to serve me. And I feel like right now it serves the Orange Empire. Yeah. Oh, I just saw someone say, so James Moore is saying, hey, I'm a U.S. Marine combat veteran. Yeah, James, I first of all, thank you for your service, man. Like you got more stones than many of us, and certainly more than old bone spurs. But that's the thing. Like the dude dodged the draft, talks this big game, like how he's this big tough guy. This practically obese man who says he's like John Wayne. And then plays down traumatic brain injuries like it's no big deal because he doesn't want to look bad. He doesn't want to look like he started something that resulted in any loss to American troops. And don't even get me started about how he treated John McCain and how he talks smack about like John Kelly and Mattis. It's just like, come on, man, you're such a little freaking child. Like, it's not always about you, Donald. It isn't. And you made decisions that affected other people. If you thought the right call was made in Syria, you should just acknowledge that people have concussive brain injuries because of the repercussions. You could still say, like, he could have said, that was terrible. One TBI is one too many. Ultimately, we had to make the right call for the country. And if I had to do it again, I still would. I'd be like, okay, at least he's acknowledging it. But then when he's just like, oh yeah, it's just some headaches, no big deal. It's like, really? You sitting around Mar-a-Lago? You want to say it's no big deal? Why don't you pick up a rifle? You get over there. Anyway, the hypocrisy of people that like thump their chests and chant USA and talk about how we're going to kick everybody's ass and then concurrently dodge a draft, come up with fake doctor letters about your bone spurs that you can't walk, even though you played football in college. It's just like, come on, man. Like, this is just ridiculous. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? UBI would allow workers the freedom to negotiate. What are your thoughts on how this could affect the competitiveness of U.S. labor? Well, I think that the days of U.S. labor competing on lowest cost are over. We're clearly not the lowest cost producer. So I feel like we're more like German labor, which is, yeah, we cost more than labor in China, but we have better quality and more innovation. So I think if U.S. workers are able to have more bargaining power and get a better deal for themselves, I don't think these companies are going to go under, because if the companies were succeeding because somehow U.S. labor is the cheapest, like, they're freaking out of their mind. Like, the fundamentals are so to our disadvantage in terms of competing on cost that paying a blue collar worker a little more is not going to break the bank. And frankly, like those executives, they're doing fine. And these companies are having record profits. I think they can afford to pay a little more to the workers, in my opinion. Let's see. Pence said that cigarettes don't kill you. Well, there's a shocker. Hey, Tachi is saying, build the wall at the north of those darn Canadians. Should we bring Lynch back for next season? I don't think so, Brendan. I think Marshawn had a great cameo, but he ain't no spring chicken. He's kind of like Biden. Like, it's time for him to just chill, enjoy his retirement. How do you see the virus play out in the US? Well, I think it will get way more prevalent because, the funny thing is people were saying like, don't go to the affected areas. Guys, there's enough corona now spread out globally that you don't need to go to Wuhan to get that shit. You could just go to like any major international city or any airport, and I'm sure there's some dude with corona that just coughed around some part of that airport. I don't know how long the virus lives after it's like in the air or whatever, but like, let's just acknowledge that we basically need to go now into prevention and cure. Like there's no dream of containing it. It's out, man. The horse is out of the stable. So everybody, please remember to wash your hands. I already feel bad now that I didn't wash my hands before I ate my fries. I totally should have. Anyway, wash your hands. Let's see. Any other questions? Oh my God, you guys are asking some controversial stuff. What's your hot take on Harvey Weinstein? He's gross, dude. And him walking around in his little walker and looking all old and pathetic is such like it's like that's too little too late, dude. You were a freaking predator. I did see this video of all of these Hollywood celebrities in the past thanking him when they were getting their award. And that makes me sad because I don't think it means that he didn't do what he did, but I do think it means that the people basically looked the other way when he was doing this shit because they wanted to advance their own careers. And I understand they have to put food on the table. They want to have their dream of being under the big lights, and maybe if they don't thank him, like they're not going to get their next part. I don't know, but I'm glad that dude is convicted now. Stormwatcher saying, he doesn't have respect. The orange guy doesn't have respect for our vets. How can people? I don't know. It's sad, but they do. This is this guy has turned people against the memory of McCain, who, in my opinion, has given more to this country than 99.9999999% of all Americans. And there was even a question of do we fly the flag at half staff when he passed? It's crazy. Let's see. Ivanka, a little bit clueless. Yeah, I think she thinks retraining is the answer. I don't know. I doubt a lot of these laid off call center and truck driver and kind of logistics folks are going to become, data scientists or machine learning engineers overnight. Yeah. Molten Creative saying you live in Washington State. Yeah, and then the other thing is once it's out, you can't just be like, oh, well, that Asian dude, I'm worried about him because all races have it now. So you don't know. And the sad thing is it has similar initial symptoms to the cold and flu. So, yeah. How can they track the virus when most folks don't even have health care? Yeah. Well, I got good news and bad news. Even if you do have health care and you get it, all you can really do is just try and ride it out. There's no cure yet. So, yeah, I mean, that's the bright side, I suppose. That, Sandbox Larry is saying it can survive 9 days on a surface. Holy crap. I don't want to touch anything now. Okay. Oh, Steve L. What percent will die? Well, I think the total mortality rate is only 2%. So even if everyone got it, which they wouldn't, it would be at worst 2%, which would still be a huge deal, like 1 out of 50 people. But if half of the country got it and its mortality rate was 2%, then only 1% of all the country would die. And I think our death rate from certainly like car accidents and stuff is probably greater. But at any rate, I think that's good for tonight. I'm sorry we weren't able to have Mike Knowles with us. We'll try and get him on again for the future. But hopefully you guys had a good time. And in the meantime, let me summarize in terms of 2020. Number one, yes, Biden had a good night in South Carolina, a great night. But let's see what happens in Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday polls suggest that it's going to be Bernie that wins the most delegates. Then it's going to require a convergence of moderates to rally behind Biden. And then it's going to result in some very interesting Democratic convention where neither of them will have 50%. And then unless the Warren people really run to Bernie, it's very possible that the moderates will rally behind Biden and he will then be the nominee. And then the question will be, are enough of the Bernie people going to come along for the ride and turn out that we win the general? And if it's a close race, will enough pissed off Bernie people say, and then we get the orange guy for another 4 years, and you got Jared and Ivanka and Pence. Who is that Secretary of Education, that lady that doesn't seem very bright? Just that whole Trump sort of junior varsity team. But then maybe we'll get Yang in 2024. All right. Goodbye, nerds. Keep it real.